Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2026 Valero Texas Open DFS Tactics show. Per usual on a Wednesday night, we're going to take our final look at the forecast, see if a wave advantage has developed for TPC San Antonio and the Valero Texas Open. We're going to look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the tournament this week. We'll cover my rankings. We're going to make some lineups and then cover the 2026 Picks Challenge. So, as usual, on a Wednesday night, we've got a lot to cover. Let's get right into it. All statistics provided tonight and moving forward are from both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole over at BetSperts. The Rabbit Hole is acquiring or merging with Fantasy National, so I myself am in the process of migrating all of my data to the Rabbit Hole formatting, if you will. Long, slow, tedious process, but I am making some headway on that. But make sure you go check out the Rabbit Hole. It has everything you need to make the correct wagers, optimize your lineups. It has a tournament simulator. You especially don't want to miss out with the Masters next week. So make sure you are looking into the Rabbit Hole. Subscribe or get your subscription to it. Really is worth the money that you would spend. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I put research out every Monday regarding some tournament info, patterns of previous winners. That did come out this past Monday for the Valero Texas Open. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players I've wagered with my own money and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Would not recommend it if I did not believe in it. Has everything you need to start your week of preparation. Continues to update you throughout the week, including his deluxe version, which comes out Wednesdays with his projected ownerships and top plays and values. So you really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his article. And go show him some support. Follow him on social media, because that is where we put our detailed write-ups for the 2026 Picks Challenge. He has taken a commanding lead early on in 2026. I'm trying to chip away into that lead. So we're hoping that we have another big week this week at the Valero. So go follow Gabe over on social media as well. Then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. I want to hear from you all. In addition to the poll question, which I have typed up, would love the community's feedback on that. Any thoughts on the Valero? Who's your winner this week? Who are you targeting? Who are you staying away from? All of that. Put your thoughts and opinions into chat. If you're not able to catch a show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. One last thing, I did go out and purchase some hardware that is going to hopefully help with some of the stream and show issues. However, I do see that I am still dropping some frames, so I'm hoping this hardware will help. So I would appreciate if chat would let me know periodically, how the stream settings are. Is it lagging? Is it stopping? How's the sound quality? I tested it a little bit earlier today, but it probably wasn't the best test since there were only a couple of viewers, and this is generally a pretty popular show. So I'm hoping the stream will kind of get going here in a little bit in terms of writing itself and not dropping the frames. I've done my best on that, so hopefully it'll kick in here. But everything with the Valero, put your thoughts and opinions in the chat, and let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2026 Valero Texas Open. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday night with the super forecast over at Windfinder. Good evening, Moss. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you are doing well this Wednesday evening, ready for the Valero Texas Open. And if you're not, hopefully we're going to provide you the answers that you need to finalize your lineups, optimize them, finalize any wagers that you might be making for the Valero. Try to build our bankroll for the Masters, which is next week. Before I forget, let me post this poll question. Keeping in theme with the past 3 weeks of the poll question, even though it is not golf related, we have reached the final four. for NCAA March Madness. So the poll question to the community this week: who's your national champion? Is it Arizona? Is it Illinois, Michigan, or UConn? So feel free to put your answer in there. Would love to hear from the community in that regard. I'll certainly give my opinion later on in the show. But we turn our attention to the forecast for TBC San Antonio and the Oaks course, the Valero Texas Open. We are expecting a little bit of some rain early tomorrow, some light showers early on with very little wind. And then you see when the rain moves out, the wind comes in. So we are looking at potentially a Thursday a.m. favor here, especially with tomorrow. Now, Friday, it looks pretty similar for both. However, the gustier winds are in the morning. So it's hard to say what I would consider a wave advantage this week. I'm going to tell you from my point of view, I did not factor in a wave advantage into any of my thinking this week. I'm just going to play the players that I truly believe are the best suited for the Oaks course this week. If you wanted to argue that the Thursday a.m., Friday p.m. had the better half of the draw, I probably wouldn't argue that if you want to nitpick, considering the best wind is early Thursday. That said, it's generally cooler temperatures. Rain doesn't help either. And this amount of rain isn't going to soften the course up. This area has been in drought-like conditions for a long time. So this amount of rain is not going to soften the course up enough to really have much of a factor, in my opinion. And if we zoom out and take a look at the weekend, a lot more rain and wind in the forecast, particularly Sunday. You take a look at Saturday. Saturday afternoon actually looks great, with the exception of some rain that is moving in. And then Sunday looks horrendous. Lots of rain, lots of wind. Looks like it's going to really be difficult Sunday. And if it gets washed out Sunday, Monday doesn't look much better. I don't know if they would actually play or delay this tournament into Monday, considering some of the players from the Masters are here. I just don't know what they would do. But Sunday looks pretty gross. Lots of rain. You see half an inch here at around 10 a.m., almost a half an inch at 7 a.m. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a deluge Sunday. But for our purposes, trying to get 6 of 6 through the cut, I'm not factoring in a wave advantage. You can agree to disagree. If you wanted to nitpick, I would say give a slight advantage to the Thursday a.m., Friday p.m. But that's really splitting hairs in my opinion. So there's a look at the forecast. I'll actually keep that up in case there are more questions later on in the show. We now turn to the rabbit hole and bet spurts. I've got this sorted just conveniently for price for me, in case there are some specific questions that come up about players this evening. But I want to make a lot of lineups tonight, and a part of that is making the community lineup that'll go into the birdie. So why don't we go ahead and just go straight into the mixed condition model that I have made for TPC San Antonio and the Oaks course this week. A big model because I think it's going to be difficult this week. San Antonio, the Oaks course, is generally pretty difficult. Difficult scoring par 5s and par 4s. Just scoring conditions in general are pretty difficult. I don't think the wind is going to help very much in that regard. So I think it's going to be pretty difficult. Because of that, I've got more things that I want to look at, more metrics that I want to consider this week. We're going to start with 5% in total performance, strokes gained total, in moderate and windy conditions. Now, the rabbit hole, and it's just getting cut off here. You can see at the very bottom left of your screen, it's just getting cut off. But the rabbit hole considers moderate 10 to 17 miles an hour of wind and windy at 18. So I'm just giving you the parameters of which they are defined. Agree or disagree with that. But those are the parameters. So we've got 5% in moderate and windy conditions. Who just plays well in the wind? Some players don't mind it. Some players excel in it. Some players really struggle in the wind. And I think wind performance, thanks to this forecast, particularly Friday and Sunday, and quite a bit of Thursday as well, is going to, majority of the field is going to be playing in wind. So I think we need to have some wind metrics in here. 5% there. This was a metric that the more I thought about it Monday night, the more I started to like it. And then coming into Tuesday and then making the mixed condition model earlier today really kind of stuck with me. 5% on total driving. Total driving is the culmination, I guess, or the summation of a player's fairway accuracy and driving distance. You might be wondering what's the difference between that and off the tee. Off the tee generally prefers or favors distance, whereas total driving will take a player's rank in fairway accuracy. I'll make math easy here. If a player is 10th in driving accuracy and they are 10th in driving distance, their total driving metric is 20. And then you'll sort lowest number to highest. So obviously the best a player can be is a total of 2, first in driving accuracy, first in driving distance. So that is what total driving is. Distance really doesn't matter here, but it's I want to give players that can hit it far. I don't want to penalize them per se, because these fairways are really difficult to hit. Players are going to just simply miss fairways this week. It's just the nature of the Oaks course. So more of a premium on accuracy, but I did want to factor in if a player is an elite driver of the golf ball. Think Rory, think John Rahm if you were playing, just these elite drivers of the golf ball. I did want to give them a little bit of a boost if they are accurate and long. So 5% in total driving, still at what I would consider an accuracy-based metric, but the more heavy percentage in terms of off the tee is in good drives gained, and this really heavily favors accuracy. A good drive is considered a player hits the fairway, or they hit the green in regulation from the rough or fairway bunker or whatever they happen to hit their tee ball from. So 10% on good drives. Players need to be in the fairway. Players need to hit the greens this week. 10% there, using the filter on difficult and very difficult scoring conditions, which I think the Valero will be this week. The biggest portion of the mixed condition model, probably no surprise, is in strokes gained approach. You're going to have to hit your irons very, very well. We take a look at historical winners just very quickly. Brian Harmon, excellent in terms of strokes gained approach, especially that week. Akshay Bhatia is a great ball striker, 8.18. He probably led, would be my guess. Yeah, so he led. Corey Connors, same thing, excellent ball striker, excellent iron player. JJ Spawn, even though he has really broken out in the past year and a half or so, he's always been a very good iron player. So iron play is strong at the Oaks course, 15% in strokes gained approach, and I would have upped this if I could. I just wanted to make sure I incorporated all of these other things in the mixed condition model. If anything, I'm light on this. This needs to be 20 or even 25%. but I wanted to incorporate other stuff, so it sits at 15%. 5% in greens. This might seem obvious and maybe lazy, but hitting greens is a skill set. This is how I hit Daniel Berger at the Arnold Palmer when he was very, very unique. Some guys are just adept at hitting the green in regulation. It's a skill set, particularly when it's difficult. So 5% in hitting greens when scoring is difficult and very difficult. 10% in proximity, 50 to 100. We look at the approach range chart here in the rabbit hole, 30% more than the average PGA Tour event. Your players are going to have wedges, essentially 50 to 100 yard approaches this week. Now, it's only 12% of the total, but you think about it, these par 5s, par 5 18th, 591, 604, 602, a lot of the players aren't going to get there in two. So they're going to lay up to a number that they're comfortable with, and it might fall outside the 100 yards. It might be in the 100 to 150. But I'm just going by, this relative difference, 50 to 100. So there's a lot of wedges around here, despite the total length of TPC San Antonio. And you've got several shorter par 4s, too. 347, 342, 403, 405, 410. These will demand some, 50 to 100 yard wedge shots as well. So 10% in 50 to 100 proximity, 5% in 250 plus proximity for the players that really want us to push the throttle, go for these greens in two, especially the par 5s. We'll see who all can do that and do that well. So only 5% there. I think it's a bonus skill set this week. I don't think it's quite mandatory. 10% around the green. Look, despite the fact that I've got a whole lot of emphasis in irons this week, greens are still going to get missed. They are simply going to get missed this week. The greens are slightly larger than the PGA Tour average, but they are built to repel poor approach shots. They're multi-tiered with false fronts, steep runoff areas on the edges of greens. These greens are very, very hard to hit. So a player is going to have to be pretty tidy around the green. See Brian Harmon. Batia is not terrible around the green. Corey Connors is, but he generally just hits a bunch of greens and is serviceable enough around the green to win here. So I didn't want to ignore around the green. We're definitely going to look at it because greens will just simply be missed here this week. 10% on around the green, 5% in sand saves. Even though this is the least common around the green shot type, only 27% from sand, whereas you have 38.5% from the rough and 34% from short grass. It's the most difficult. The sand is the most difficult around TPC San Antonio, and you still have more sand shots than the average PGA Tour course. So I wanted to factor that in a little bit. I didn't want to overweight it, but the bunkers are pretty hard to play out of here. So who's really good at saving themselves from the sand? I did use the filter when sand saves are difficult. As I mentioned, playing from the sand here at the Oaks course is difficult. So this is a little bit of a narrow metric using that sand saves difficult filter, but that's the angle I went with this week with that to see how it works. Maybe I should have just used sand saves in general. We'll see. 5% putting on Poa Trivialis. Even though putting is a pretty important factor here, I didn't want to overweight it, especially because when I went back and looked at prior champions, there wasn't a whole lot of correlation. Brian Harmon had terrible putting form coming into last year's Valero Texas Open and wins. Corey Connors is not always a great putter. He can spike a little bit, but he's not always a great putter. Batia, when he won, wasn't a good putter. But now he's turned it around with the lab putter. But anyway, putting hasn't been a whole lot of, there hasn't been a whole lot of correlation with putting and particularly winners. So I am basically focusing on if we have any Poa Trivialis specialists. That's why it's only 5% there. Good evening, Trip. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Pouring one out for Duke. I have poured many out for Duke since this past weekend. A very, very gut-wrenching way to lose. But, I mean, you got to credit UConn for hanging in the game down 19. Just kept chipping away. And then, you know, I am from Indiana, so I am aware of Braylon Mullins. He was Mr. Basketball in Indiana last year. And he just simply hit a 40-foot shot. I mean, it is what it is. There's much blame to go around on Duke's side. I'm not going to recap that. I'm sure everyone knows about it. But what do you do? I mean, as a Duke fan, it's still a great year. An Elite Eight run with, you know, a young team, a team that is that was, you know, injured. Foster probably wasn't 100%. I don't think Ngungba was 100%. So it's still a great year. Kind of a sour way to end it, obviously, but it is what it is. And fortunately for you all, you don't have to see me in the Duke beanie and the Duke jersey until this time next year. Good evening, Brobarian. How are you? Hopefully you have been well. You have been successful in whatever endeavors. Haven't seen you in a while. Getting ready for the Masters, I hope. Any March Madness, I hope you have been successful with as well. It is good to see you. Thanks for jumping in chat, Brobarian. Who you got the rest of the way? Michigan for me and leaning UConn. I'll share my answer, you know, towards the end. I'm still alive in the bracket challenge that I kind of organize and host. I had 99 entries this year. I'm still alive. I have to have one very specific scenario happen, but I'm still alive. So I'd rather have a chance than not. Although Duke did kill my best bracket. So, yeah. Finishing out this mixed condition model, a couple more things here. 5% birdies or better on difficult and very difficult. Pars are generally good scores around the Oaks course, but you're not going to win at even par. This isn't a U.S. Open. You know, Brian Harmon, -9. Shoot, Batia and McCarthy got to 20. Granted, they ran away from everybody. Rory was at 11. Connors got to 15. So pars are generally good scores around here, but you're going to have to find some birdies. You're not going to just be able to win the tournament with 72 pars, unlike maybe a U.S. Open. So who can get birdies still when it's difficult and very difficult? But the more important scoring metric this week is bogey avoidance. 10% on bogeys avoided when it's difficult and very difficult. Like I said, pars are good scores. Gonna have to find some birdies out there, mostly avoid bogeys. We finalized the mixed condition model with 2 specific links of par 5s. All of the par 5s fall into this range. When I looked at this in the data dive show Monday night, I just looked at par 5s when par 5s were difficult. And certainly the par 5s at the Oaks course are difficult. But I went back and looked, and every single par 5 plays to these links. So I wanted to see who has been the best at these links so far in 2026. There's the mixed condition model that I've made for the Oaks course. Cut line. Let's see. Is there a way we can look at that very quickly? I know we could in Fantasy National. I don't know if we're able to look at it. So last year, -2 was the cut. That seems rather easy, or easier than I thought. Yeah. +2 in 2024. 2023, it was +1. That's where I'm kind of leaning, Brobarian. If you're asking me, Wednesday night before any of the tournament starts, I'm going to say a +1 cut. I do think there will be some birdies, particularly because the course might get softened up just a little from the rain that is expected tomorrow morning. But this is generally pretty hard. And if a player is not on all facets of their game, if they're not driving it in the fairway, they don't necessarily have to be long, but they need to be accurate. If they're not in the fairway, if they're not hitting their irons well, greens will get missed, even from like Corey Connors and these top, even though I know he's not here, but I mean, even the best iron players are going to miss some of these greens. They're just built to repel approach shots. So players are going to have to be pretty tidy around the green. I think about +1 or +2 would be a sensible cut line, because I do think it's going to be pretty difficult this week. So there's a look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the Oaks course. Hopefully I've given you the thought process on why I've included the metrics and the filters that I have, what my line of thinking is on how the tournament's going to play this week. Areas where I might be weak, I still think I need to put more, or I wanted to put more in strokes gained approach. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure I factored in all of these different things. I still think I'm going to be weak on approach. If putting matters a little bit more, which it generally does, I'm going to be a little bit weak to that. If around the green doesn't matter as much, or if it matters more, if the par threes matter, the par threes are pretty difficult around here as well. I don't have any par 3 or par 4 considerations. I only looked at par 5s, considering they are generally the best opportunities to score here, and players are going to have to take advantage of the opportunities that they get. So if any par 3 or par 4 matters heavily. But you can see I've got a lot of emphasis in iron play. This good drive percentage is both fairway accuracy and good iron play or green in regulation. So lots of emphasis in the iron play, lots of emphasis in the 50 to 100. So if this range is wrong, I'll be weak. If it's more 150 to or 100 to 150, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a look at the mixed condition model. We'll go now over to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And for your information, if you're a new viewer, and as a reminder for returning viewers, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The rabbit hole rank, which is a numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model that we just covered, metrics, percentages, filters, all of that. The rabbit hole will spit out a ranking based on the mixed condition model. Course value is an attempt at giving the player a numerical value at how well they have played that course the past 5 years. I only go back 5 years. You can agree to disagree, but I only go back 5 years because things change so often. Players change caddies. Players change equipment. Courses go through renovations. I only go back 5 years. So course value, lower the number the better. You see Russell Henley's only played here once, but it was a top 5. So he's got a very good course value. Keith Mitchell's 3 for 3. Played very well, or 4 for 4, excuse me. He's 4 for 4. Average finish like T15. He's got a very good course value. Whereas somebody like Alex Smalley has not been particularly good here. Smotherman has not been particularly good here. These higher numbers signify that they have not been as good at that course. And then the third and final piece of my rankings, projected ownerships. These are from Gabe, but we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options off of our fellow contestants. That's why you'll see somebody like Jordan Spieth drop a little bit. Even though he's got such amazing course history here, he is falling because he is projected to be the most owned player on the slate. So we are trying to find unique options. Projected ownerships are a part of my rankings. And it's a pure mathematical formula. So you can always argue that the ordering, all of that. I don't factor in any wave advantage type stuff. I didn't think there was a wave advantage this week. But normally, if there is one, like I'll show you the Sony just very quickly. Like if I think there's a wave advantage, I would add a column to let you use at your discretion and how you see it. So with all that said, my rankings mathematically based for the Valero Texas Open this week goes as such. Russell Henley is my number one player. A little bit surprised with that. But when you have heavy emphasis in irons, in accuracy, you see he's the number one good drive player when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. He's not an abject failure around the greens. He's going to rise when you don't factor in a lot of distance. Hideki is number 2. Keith Mitchell, Alex Noren, Mav McNeely round out my top 5. Tommy, Thorbjorn Olesen, 6,800. Andrew Putnam is 8th. Bud Cauley 9th. And Jordan Spieth 10th. Like I said, you can always argue the ordering. Probably a little bit surprising to see Bud Cauley rise, but he is very unique. He has played pretty well here in the past 2 years. This is only 2 tournaments, but he's played pretty well here, including a top 5 last year. And he didn't rain out horribly. He was top 20 in the model, by the pure analytics. So, a little bit surprised to see Bud Cauley rise that much. My number one overall player, just purely by the metrics, was Sepp. You can see that here, number 1 rabbit hole rank. But he's getting hurt by the fact that he doesn't have the best course history here. I believe he's 2 for 3 with 1 top 25. It's not fantastic. He's also obviously very popular this week. That's why he's getting hurt by that. I really don't have much in terms of disagreement really with my top 10. I'm not playing one of these guys in the top 10, but we'll get into that. I do need to put a message in here. Apologies if my stream / show is skipping. Bought hardware yesterday, hoping to fix the problem. It doesn't seem like it's doing it. Looks like it's pretty spotty, whereas Sunday night it was pretty unwatchable from what others have told me. So I went out and purchased some hardware. I was hoping that it was going to fix the issue, and it doesn't look like it has, which is very, very upsetting. Looks like it's pretty spotty. It says it's all good on your end. I'm just looking at my my software, my streaming software, I guess the best way to put it, and it says I'm dropping some frames. So if it is lagging, I apologize. I've done everything I can think of internally. With one exception, I need to establish a wired connection. I haven't had the chance to do that yet, so I'm still working wirelessly. But anyway, apologies if it's skipping. I'm doing my best here. Enough rambling. Let's sort on the price board, see where our fellow contestants seem to be going at various areas of the price board and how we are going to maneuver around them. In the 10Ks, in the 5 digits, we have 2 players this week. We have Tommy at 10.5 and Ludwig at 10.1. I'm going to play both of these players sparingly. I'm going to be underweight on both of them. There's a lot I like lower in the price board. That said, between the two, I would favor Tommy this week. Just kind of a gut feeling. You see they rated 3rd and 4th back to back. Tommy's been a little bit better here. Tommy's also slightly more unique, at least per Gabe's projections, both are two of the top 4, maybe even 3 players in the field this week. I would just prefer Tommy, I think, of the two. Again, I'm not full fading either one, but I am technically fading both of these. I'm going to be underweight on both of these players. But I am going to make sure I have a little bit of exposure, just a light sprinkling on both of them. So if I'm not playing much, or if I'm not playing much of these two guys, that tells you I'm really not in the 6Ks either, but we'll get to that. Like I said, I'll play both of them. I lean Tommy over Ludwig. Moving into the 9s. In here, I'm going to play all but one of these players. And the one player I'm not going to play this week is Hideki, even though he rated 2nd in my model. He's been very good here, no doubt about it. But the Masters is next week. He has shown already that he is willing to withdraw from this tournament at the drop of a hat. He withdrew in 2022 when he was playing fairly well. With the Masters next week, Hideki is prone to withdrawals, although I haven't heard any injury concerns with Hideki. This is just a little bit too much risk for me. No thanks on Hideki, because he has shown he will withdraw from this tournament. Any chance you know how these ownership projections are calculated by people? If Gabe happens to drop by in chat, I'll ask him. He has told me, and I'm just being transparent here, I don't remember the exact formula or way it's calculated. There's a kind of a mathematical formula to it, and I don't want to tell you incorrectly. That's why I'm just kind of staying away from it, Trip. But it's based on a mathematical formula between like their odds on various sports books, implied win odds based on pricing, things of that nature. So that's the best way I can describe it, without trying to, or without fear of being incorrect. I do know, a couple of factors that go into it. But if Gabe drops by in chat, which I'm hoping he will later, we'll make sure to ask him. Wish I had the answer, like the full answer for you, Trip. I just don't. So yeah, in the 9Ks, not playing Hideki because of the withdrawal risk. He's already shown he'll withdraw from this tournament. See 2022. Otherwise, I'm going to play a little bit of everybody in here. I'm going to be mostly all in on Sepp. Yes, I understand he is very popular. Probably the 2nd, maybe 3rd most popular player in this in the 9Ks. I know he doesn't have the best course history here. He's just been very, very good lately. Go over to BetSperts, bring up Sepp's page. He's just been great. Really, really good. I mean, he hasn't lost strokes approach yet this calendar year. Always a pretty good putter, gaining off the tee as well. He's just played very, very well. 4 top 20s in his past 5 events. I think this sets up well for him. Now, his course history leaves quite a bit to be desired. Missed the cut way back in 2019. T67, which wasn't great at all. And then he did top 25 last year. A complete game top 25 last year. So, or last time he played 3 years ago, not last year. So, I don't know. I think things line up for him pretty darn well this week. He is popular. I don't like that. I wish he was a little bit lower. But that's who I have targeted in the 9Ks. I will play Russell quite a bit. He is the number 1 player in my overall rankings. He's only played here once in the past 5 years, but it was a top 5. Number 1 good drives, top 15 with the irons still. There's a lot to like here, especially since distance doesn't matter. Bobby Mack, I'll play a little bit. he's very popular as well. The irons haven't been good in 2026. That said, it hasn't prevented him from still having some pretty high finishes. If we take a look at Bobby Mack's page, you know, his irons have been woeful, yet he still has 2 top 5 finishes. And the 2 top 5 finishes he has is when he gained with the irons. He hasn't lost strokes off the tee in 2026 on the PGA Tour. He hasn't lost strokes putting on the PGA Tour. So, again, very popular. I'm going to play him a little bit. I'm going to be underweight on him, but I will play him. The only full fade in the 9Ks for me is Hideki. I am going to be very underweight on Jordan Spieth, simply because of this ownership. This is Scotty level ownership. I'm sorry, Jordan Spieth is not the Scotty Scheffler of this field. Jordan Spieth is playing very well right now. He probably has the most consistent course history here, but he's not Scotty Scheffler. I'm sorry. So while I'll play him twice, 3 times in the mini lineups that I play, I'm going to be quite a bit underweight on him. The irons have been really good the past 3 tournaments. Don't ignore that. But he hasn't been great with the 50 to 100, like the wedges. He can hit some foul balls, and that's not very good here at Valero. You can get away with that at Houston. You can't get away with massive foul balls around the Oaks course. So, you know, it mainly it's an ownership fade for me on Spieth. Because I mean the course history is immaculate. This is basically an ownership fade. I'll play him a couple times just to say, you know, just to cover myself, if you will. But I am going to be underweight on Jordan Spieth. McNeely's fine. Siwoo's fine. Anytime you're talking about like precision with driver accuracy, you always got to think about Siwoo. I got Sep 2 along with Rio, Denny, Novak, Vegas, and Hoagie. We'll talk about a couple of those guys. I'm really high on 3 of those, and I'm not high on 3 of them. So we'll get into it. Siwoo's fine. So yeah, I'm playing a smattering of Bobby Mack, Siwoo, Spieth, and McNeely. I am heavy on Sepp Straka. I am technically going to be overweight on Russell Henley. I'm going to have more than 25% Russell Henley, but it's not like I'm all in on him. I'm probably got 40 to 50% on Henley. So that's how I see the 9Ks. Moving down into the 8s. This range for me, I loved. I loved almost every single player down here. Couple of exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, I'm going to use a lot in the 8Ks. I'm going to be extremely overweight on balanced lineups this week. I'm actually not going to play any Thorbjornsen. This doesn't feel like a great fit for him. He was not particularly good last year here. He's a little bit better of a player now. But he has still kind of struggled when it's been difficult, particularly avoiding bogeys. He's very good around the green. Really, Thorbjornsen's best strength is his driver. It's kind of mitigated here. Kind of. You see second in total driving because he's generally long and accurate, but you don't hit driver off every single par 4 here. He's not the best with the 250, like the very long approaches. The irons have been acceptable, not great, but you know, you would rather see this number be quite a bit higher if you're paying 8,900. So I just don't think this is the best course fit for Thorbjornsen. If I'm wrong, I'll have a bad week, but I'm not going to play any Thorbjornsen. And this is going to be probably a little bit unpopular because I know he's a very popular player. I'm not going to play any Ricky. Hey, good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. I have not seen, so I did go back and watch the VOD from last week, last Wednesday's Houston Open. I know I apologize to you Monday night, but I will, in front of everybody, give you your fair apology. mea culpa when I attempted to call you out Monday night on Ryan Fox, and it wasn't you. So I will own the L, if you will, on that, considering it was not you when I went back and looked at the VOD who was really high on Ryan Fox. So, but it's good to see you, Phil, in chat tonight. Much appreciated. And good evening, Timothy. Very much appreciated for jumping in chat. It's good to see you. Got to play Pinge. Price is too good. We'll get there. We're still talking about the 8s. We'll talk about Pinge. I don't think I'm in agreement with you, Timothy. Like I said, this probably won't be a popular opinion because I know he's a popular player, but I'm actually not going to play any Ricky either. He hasn't been good around the green this year. Irons have been okay. His wedges haven't been great. I don't know. Ricky was one of the last players I considered for my player pool. I'm not there. I'm just not there with him. I liked so much in the 8s. You can't play everybody, so if Ricky plays well, okay. I don't hate it by any means. It's just he was like my last cut of my player pool. All in on Hoagie. If he wins, I win like 10,000. If he gets first round leader, 3.7. Good around the green. Shouldn't you play Bez? I would have had the extra cash. We'll get there. Like I said, we're still in the 8s. Elsewhere in the 8s, the rest of the 8s, I'm playing. Yes, that does include Johnny Kiefer. Once. I'm playing Johnny Kiefer once. And the reason being, I don't think many people know this, because I didn't before I looked it up. This is quite literally a home game. He's living in San Antonio. I don't know if this is his home course or not, but he lives in San Antonio. This is a home game for him. Combine that with the fact that it was a very, very strong Houston. I'll play him once. Once. Johnny Kiefer. So I want to make that clear before I get into the rest of the 8s. The rest of the 8s, Alex Noren, very popular, but I'm going to play him. He's been very good here. The profile sticks out pretty well. Very good around the green. The irons haven't been atrocious. I'm not worried about his bogey avoidance. A lot of this is coming from last year when he was still working his way back from injury. He's very good with the long irons. Very good putter. I like Alex Noren. I don't like the ownership, but I will play him. Spawn, pivot in the area, clearly, other than Nick Taylor, who we'll talk about in a moment. Spawn's the pivot in this area. I do worry about Spawn for one thing and one thing only. He is really, really bad with the putter right now. This guy was an exceptional putter last year. But you look at 2026, that's a lot of red. I mean, he's losing strokes left and right on the greens. He's always been a good iron player, but look at it. Look at his putting last year. Well, he gained 10 at the U.S. Open, but like last year, Charles Schwab and PGA, Heritage, even early on, withdrew from the Waste Management. Pebble he gained, Farmers he gained, Sony he gained. He's just not a good putter right now. So, again, much like Johnny Kiefer, I'm playing JJ Spawn once. Just to make sure I have him. Keith Mitchell, probably my favorite play in the area. Everyone talks about his putter. We all know about his great ball striking, top 15 irons, great driver. Little worried about the around the green, but he's good in the wind. But everyone talks about his putter. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Keith Mitchell at the Oaks course has been awesome. And this course is very predictive year over year. When we look at his performance at the Valero, nothing outside of a T26, and that was a long time ago. Past 5 years, T17, T14, T12, gaining every single tournament with the putter. When a poor putter routinely gains on a certain set of greens, like a tournament, you gotta pay attention. The best example I can give you is Hideki at Riviera. Hideki, not known for being a good putter. Hideki putts the daylights out at Riviera, and that's why he's always live at Riviera, among other things. Keith Mitchell has been awesome. Well, maybe not awesome. He's been really good on these greens. Combine that with his typically very strong ball striking. I love Keith Mitchell this week. If he does not play well, I will lose. Playing a lot of Keith Mitchell. Rio, I like a lot. The first name I clicked in the outright market was Rio Itsatsune. So I'm going to play him in DFS, but he's popular. So take that for what you will. But I was very confident in Rio at the start of the week. I'm still very confident in Rio. It's just not as strong of a play because he's popular. Tripp says, or no, was that Tripp or was that Phil? Denny, yeah. So Phil says a fade of Denny. I'm going to caution you on that, Phil, only because his irons have started to heat up. If Denny's irons were still what they were at the beginning of the year, I would completely agree with you. It was bad to start the year. But he's gained in 3 straight. And he's not just gaining like a half. He's gaining a stroke around the past couple times. 1.5, 4, and 3. He is prone to be streaky with the irons. But when he does get right with the irons, because of his very strong short game, he's generally really live. And what does Valero really reward? Strong short game. So I am in disagreement with you there, Phil. I'm going to play quite a bit of McCarthy. Even when he lost strokes last year at the Valero, he's still top 20'd because he's very good scrambling. He's very good with the short game, all-world putter, etc., etc. Denny McCarthy, I think, has quite a bit of upside. Now, you make a very valid point that 18% is pretty ugly. So, if you want to fade him and bank on the irons like cooling off, it's a legitimate thought process. I am banking on the irons staying hot and then letting his course history, his course form, his course fit carry him the rest of the way. So 2 different lines of thinking there, Tripp, between you and I, and that's fine. Because this ownership isn't great. I'll give you that. But I would not call it an easy fade, especially since this is a very predictive course. He's been very good here in the past, and the irons are starting to heat up. So, Suitor Sean, I want to like, popular, and he's never played here. So, he's got a couple of strikes against him. That said, he rated out like top 5 just purely by the analytics. Great iron player. Keeps the ball in front of him with respectable distance. The around the green is a little worrisome, sure. But 3rd in total driving. Hits plenty of greens. This is a very small sample size. He hasn't played very many difficult scoring conditioned rounds. But he hit the greens in those rounds that he played it. He's been good on this surface in a very small sample size. Number 1 birdie getter when it's been difficult. Again, small sample size. So I like Suitor Sean. He's popular, and he always carries this risk of not having played here when this is a very predictive course, so it could backfire. And I believe it was, who was it that popped Nick Taylor? Somebody mentioned Nick Taylor. Got one line. Got to play Pinge, Olga, Hoagie. Taylor, Timothy. Okay. I do like Nick Taylor this week. I think Nick Taylor is interesting. He's not put it all together yet in 2026. but he's been very, very solid, quietly, very, very solid. Good irons, great around the green. Not the best course history here, but that said, him being a pivot off of Sudarshan, off of McCarthy, off of Rio, I do like Nick Taylor, Timothy, and I'm going to play him quite a bit too. So, again, to recap, the 8Ks, not playing either of these two. I like Noren. I'm going to play Spawn like once. I'm basically all in on Keith Mitchell. I like Rio Itsatsune. I bet him outright so I can afford to maybe back off of him a little bit in DFS. I like McCarthy. It's not without risk. Same for Sudarshan. Really like Nick Taylor. All right. I'm going to try to get through the rest of this because we still need to make some lineups, cover the 2026 Picks Challenge. We still got a lot to do, and I still got to get into the 7s and 6s. Feel free to put any questions or thoughts into chat. I will do my best to answer all of them. I just don't promise to answer them because I do try to keep this show at a respectable length. So, don't hesitate with your questions. I just apologize in advance if I don't answer them. Moving into the upper 7s, Thorbjorn Olesen, a little bit popular. It's okay. I like him. He's been very good here with a T14 and a T5. Irons are great. Good around the green. He just hadn't had a good around the green performance yet early in 2026. Very good in the wind. Where'd he go? There it is. Very good in the wind. Very good with the 250 plus. Attacking these par 5s and 2 perhaps. So take a look at Thorbjorn Olesen. He's just not as popular as you might, or he's not as unique, as you might want. Timothy said Pinge. I was in agreement with you on Nick Taylor. I am not in agreement with you on Marco Pinge. This doesn't feel like a great Marco Pinge fit because you don't hit driver everywhere. You just don't. Pinge's best weapon is his driver. And you can see that. His off-the-tee performances have been great in 2026. The irons, not so much. And you got to be a really good iron player. You got to be really good around the green here. Yeah, I don't like this fit. However, I didn't think the Valspar was a good fit, and he finished top 5. So, yeah. Yeah, he was really good round 1 last week when the irons just collapsed on Friday last week. So, I mean, he's a pivot. That's what I'll tell you, Timothy. If you want to go to him, he's certainly a pivot. The irons haven't been great. Around the green hasn't been great. And those are the two big focal points for me this week. I'm going to leave him on the bench. Somebody talked about, hey, good evening, Chronic. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you were ready for the Valero. Things have been going well for you. Thinking Hideki low ownership. I'm going to full fade Hideki. He looks like he is one of the more unique options in the 9Ks, but he's already shown he's willing to withdraw from this tournament, especially with the Masters next week. I'm just not going to take that risk. Somebody mentioned Will Zalatoris. Are you confident he's healthy? I'm not. I'm doing what I normally do with guys off injuries. I did it with Ryan Fox. I'm doing it with Colin Morikawa next week at the Masters. Spoilers. I was going to do it this week before he withdrew. I'm just going to take the wait and see approach. I tried to play Will Zalatoris earlier this year off the injury. Didn't go great for me. A little bit burned. The metrics are great. But, I'm just going to take the wait and see approach on Will. If he plays well, great. If not, I'm not losing anything. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready for the Valero. Things have been going well for you. How's your March Madness? Who wins championship? Who do you think? Well, I got to say, with you being a Connecticut fan, you get to have the one-up on me from last Sunday. That was a very heartbreaking loss. Innisbrook comp. Maybe a little bit. It's a good question. Let's check very, very quickly. Oaks course. Do they put Innisbrook in here? They do. Okay. I'm assuming that's for Pinge, Timothy. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Again, I just don't. I like enough in the 7Ks, especially in lower in the 7Ks. I didn't feel like I had to, what I felt was going to be a reach for Pinge. Especially at his same price, I really like Olesen. Woodland lineups last week, but Brooks and Fowler chalk bombs. Now everyone off of Ricky. Just think he can beat the guys around him, and he's 5. Yeah, okay. Like I said, at his same price, I'm playing a lot of Thorbjorn Olesen, especially because Olesen has been very good here. It'd be different if Olesen was mediocre or even bad here, but Olesen has played here twice, T14, T5. There's something about this course that Thorbjorn Olesen just simply likes. So I went with the known commodity. And I mean, even the defending champion Brian Harmon isn't that bad either. I'd much prefer Olesen, but Harmon's worth a look too. Jordan L. Smith was one of the last cuts from my player pool. Good irons. A little bit worried he hadn't played here, much like Shooter Sean. But the skill set should match. Keeps it pretty. He's pretty accurate off the tee. Hits plenty of greens. Decent enough in the wind. Yeah, Jordan Smith's worth a look. Then moving into the mid 7s, he burned us last week, or he burned me specifically last week. I am still willing to give Patrick Rogers a chance. Having said that, I played him in about 40% of lineups last week. That's dropped to like 10 or 15% for me. But I am still willing to give Patrick Rogers a chance. It may have just been a bad week. Players have bad weeks all the time. So I'll play him a little bit. Take a little bit of a look at Max McGreevy. Great iron play. Very good in the wind. It's worth a look. Somebody mentioned Seabass. I am playing quite a bit of Seabass this week. He's been good here. Sub 10%. Great around the green. Decent enough in the wind. Great putter. And he actually takes advantage of the par 5s. So I am going to play Seabass. But if you're really looking for someone off the wall, take a look at Matt Wallace. Matt Wallace has been very good here. Is excellent with his wedges. Great in the wind. Matt Wallace is sneaky for me this week. Novak's been very good. Somebody mentioned Andrew Novak earlier. He's got the JJ Spawn problem. What do I mean by that? This dude is hemorrhaging strokes on the green. My lord. Lost 7 strokes last week. 3.5 the week before that. Lost 5 at Pebble. Which Andrew Novak are you getting? I don't feel like I have to take the chance on Andrew Novak. He's been good here. That's fair. He's been very good here. Give some credit. I need to give more credit to Andrew Novak and how well he's been here. He's been very good here. 2 top 10s, including a top 5. But he is in no form right now. Maybe not no form, but very little form right now. Nick Taylor, 7 straight made cuts, then missed the cut. Yeah. Nick Taylor, was it last week or was it at like the Valspar? I just know that I played a lot of Nick Taylor whenever he missed the cut. And I played quite a bit of Rogers last week. Like, I'm still willing to take a chance on those guys. So, yeah. Somebody mentioned Novak. I'm not there. He's not been great. Again, I would rather go to Seabass or Matt Wallace at that price. And Novak's actually like the second most popular player at that price. So, Bud Cauley, rated top 10. Keeps the ball in front of him. Good around the green. Good irons. Really good in the wind. take a long look at Bud Cauley. And then the last name I'll mention in the low 7s, he really burned me at the Valspar. I'll still give a decent look at Smotherman. I played like 95% Smotherman at the Valspar, and it blew up in my face. I'm not going to play 95% Smotherman. I'm going to play like 10, like Rogers, 10 to 15% Smotherman. He's still great with the irons. Still generally keeps the ball in front of him. He's been good with the wedges. He's not great around the green. That's a little worrisome. But I am still going to be willing to roster Austin Smotherman. All right. I'm not playing much of Tommy or Ludwig, so I'm not down here in the 6Ks all that much. That said, the one player I am playing is the most popular player in the 6Ks. It's Andrew Putnam, 6%. But when you don't factor in a lot of distance or off the tee, Putnam's going to rise. He's been pretty darn good here. Second in around the green in this field. Top 20 bogey avoider. Very good with the wedges. I'm going to play Andrew Putnam, but I don't feel confident or comfortable like pushing you all in on Andrew Putnam because he is the most popular 6K play. So to get in the interest of giving you a couple of names in the 6Ks, if you all are down here, you can take a look at Stephen Fisk. I thought about it for a half a moment. His win at the Sanderson Farms, somewhat similar. Good drives, decent. Pretty darn good bogey avoider, decent in the wind. Very good long iron player or, fairway metal player here. So it's worth a look, especially at a 0.5%. I wouldn't go crazy with it, but eh. And the only other name that I was anywhere confident in was Chan Kim. Now, he's not going to be 0.0%. He was an alternate, and I'm sure Gabe was calculating his projected ownerships before Chan Kim got in the field. But Chan Kim's played here twice. He's been very good here. Very good around the green. He's generally a decent ball striker. He has not done that yet in 2026. So that's a little bit of a concern. But I'm just going on the course history there. And he generally he performs well on par 5s. So at 6,500, Chan Kim might be worth a look. But there wasn't a lot down here that I liked. Just being honest with you. So with that, let's start making some lineups. And again, get ready to make your suggestions for the community lineup that we're going to build towards the end of the show. And we're going to put it in the 20 max entry $3 contest, the Birdie, over on DraftKings. Just be aware that's the only lineup that we're going to put in the Birdie. So we need to find some uniqueness by doing, with that lineup, since it's the only one that we're putting in there. Okay, let's try to make some of these more popular lineups this week. Most common player is Jordan Spieth. So it looks like a lot of our fellow contestants are starting Spieth, Straka, coming down to Denny. Our fellow contestants seem to be bottoming out. Maybe it's Seabass. Finau's at 74. Let's see. Yeah, there's really the last double-digit owned percentage player is Thorbjorn Olesen. Sudarshan might be in this. Yellow Mirage. Until I've typed that a bunch lately. Christian Zadenhout. Damn it. I understand this is $100 over. But this looks like it's going to be a pretty popular style of lineup. Spieth, Straka, coming down to McCarthy. Maybe they come off of Sudarshan to like Johnny Kiefer or Brian Harmon. And then Olesen's fairly popular. So is Harmon. And then I'm only using Bez because he is the most popular player in the low 7s at 9.3. Maybe it's Finau at 9. this is going to be popular. Again, I understand it's 100 over, but 112 total percent. Woof. Ugly. No thank you. And the crazy thing is, I like Sepp. I like Denny. I like Sudarshan. I like Thorbjorn. You just can't put all of these players in the same lineup. You're not going to differentiate yourself enough. Could this be a decent 50-50 lineup? Sure. If you're confident in these players, where the top prize and the minimum prize is roughly the same, probably a decent enough lineup. But it's going to be very popular. Not going to be able to submit this kind of lineup in your big GPPs, in your big max entry contests. Way too much ownership. Another way that looks to be popular, we'll do Ludwig, I guess. This could be Bobby Mack. They're roughly around the same in terms of ownership. I'm just throwing Putnam in here because he's the most popular 6K play. But you can use Ludwig and not go into the 6Ks. I'm just doing it to see what kind of lineup we can build here. Brian Harman. This is Sudarshan. Denny. And 89 Noren. Sure. Or Ricky. This could be another popular, maybe style lineup. They're probably going into the 9Ks for somebody. And then going McCarthy or Yellow Miraju. Coming down to Harman. Maybe they find a mid-7 or a low-7. Again, I'm just going by these total ownerships here. But this looks like it could be another popular lineup. Going Ludwig or Bobby Mack. Like if we go Bobby Mack, what's that give them? 91. That's Sepp's 92. Yeah. Okay. Ludwig and who did I have here? Noren. So 90% ownership, 91%, still pretty high. A little bit more unique because you're willing to drop into 6Ks, which it doesn't look like many of our fellow contestants are. But still a popular lineup. So how are we going to maneuver around a lot of this chalk? Well, I gave you Andrew Putnam, even though he was in the most common like stars and scrubs lineup. For me, I would try to get a little bit greedy here, Tommy. And I know some people have talked about Tom Hoge, and I meant to do this in the 6Ks, and I apologize. But let's check Tom Hoge real quick and why I'm not doing anything with Tom Hoge this week. Tom Hoge has one very specific skill set. It's his irons. And his irons aren't ironing a lot in 2026. I believe it was you, Phil, that was very big on Hoge, all in on Hoge. Hoge is very bad around the green. I mean, very bad around the green. His off the tee isn't great in 2026. I mean, he's not played well. Your argument of him being very good at the Valero is well noted. Top 5 last year, T12, another historical top 10. That's fine. But I want you to notice the kind of form he was in coming into the Valero when he had those high finishes. Valero. Look at his ball. Look at his iron play. He was in good iron form. And he was actually putting well leading into the Valero last year. He's never good around the green. He's generally never good off the tee. But he was at least in decent form. Top 5 of the players. You know, made the cut at the API. Gaining strokes putting. You can't count Pebble as good form. He's a horse for course there. He loves Pebble. And then you come back down to like 20, I think it was 2021. Take a look at his form leading into the Valero that year. Look at all the green in the irons. He was hit and miss with the putter, sure. But he was at least gaining quite a bit with the irons. He was gaining strokes ball striking. His off the tee wasn't putrid. It wasn't good, but it wasn't putrid. Lately, his off the tee has been horrendous. He's losing strokes ball striking. He's not even gaining strokes with the irons at the moment. Just no thanks on Hoagie. No thanks on Hoagie. So I wanted to cover that for you, Phil, because you were all in on him, and I wanted to caution you on that. That said, if you're confident playing, they're your lineups, not mine. But I would caution against playing Hoagie this week. Is Johnny Vegas popular? You would have to tell me his price. Oh, never mind. I just found him. No, he's only at 3%. Again, doesn't feel like a great Johnny Vegas fit. His best weapon is his driver. He's generally long and straight. He's not been good with the irons. He is not a very good putter. He's not good around the green. Terrible with sand saves. This doesn't feel like a very good Johnny Vegas fit, and Vegas has not particularly played well here recently. But coming back to building these lineups, the first way you can go about it is to try to get a little bit greedy, and you can go like Tommy and really kind of Ludwig or who your second one is, Bobby Mack, Russell Henley, and you don't have to go into the 6Ks. Again, the more you're willing to go into the 6Ks, the more unique you seem like you're going to be this week. Andrew Putnam at 68. I mentioned a couple others, but like Austin Smotherman at 7,000. I didn't mention William Mao. Could be interesting. Chad Ramey. Could be interesting. I'm going to play quite a bit of Bud Cauley at 72. You're just living in the low to mid sevens, but you can play Tommy plus and not drop down into the sixes. Bud Cauley for me. I'd probably play some Seabez, even though he's, fairly popular for his price. You can take a look at Max McGreevy. I like Matt Wallace. I wasn't high on Andrew Novak. This could be an Andrew Novak angle. Patrick Rogers. Like you have options in here. That's one way you can go about it. Like for me, I would probably go like Russell Henley, drop down to Henley, give myself just that little bit more wiggle room so I could do like Olesen and probably Matt Wallace. Like this would be the style of lineup that I would build if I were getting greedy up top with Tommy plus. Now, having said that, I would make, a lineup or two with Tommy plus and then go like to your 1-6K like Andrew Putnam, or if you're really that high on Tom Hoagie, like you can go to Tom Hoagie. I would still try to fit some of the low sevens in here like Bud Cauley, Seabez. But now, if you're willing to go to like Tom Hoagie, you can try to get an 8 in here. Rio, Denny McCarthy. I'm going to suggest Keith Mitchell. Yeah. And then, let's just do Seabez. You're not going to be ultra unique since you have two of the big studs up here, but you're still probably going to be pretty unique with going with Hoagie. Bud Cauley seems like he's very unique this week. Seabez is a little bit popular for his area of the price board, but I think this combination of players is going to be fairly unique. The other extreme, and I've done this once or twice, is to completely fade all of this ownership, get rid of it. Start your team in the 8s. Didn't mean to have the caps lock on, and just literally fill it out with the 8s. Bottom out at Nick Taylor, Sudarshan, Denny, Rio, Keith Mitchell. A little bit more popular, but I don't think anybody is going to start their team in the 8s. And that's what I'm hoping, that this style of lineup is unique. Because I've done this once or twice. Start with Norin, then go to Mitchell or Spawn, Mitchell or Hitsatsune, literally bottoming out at Nick Taylor or Johnny Kiefer, maybe Thorbjorn Olesen. I'm hoping, even though this is a lot of cumulative ownership, I'm hoping the style of lineup is unique by starting in the 8s. I have done this once or twice this week. All right, last style of lineup that I've been building and the most common style of lineup I've been building, and then we'll build our community lineup. I told you I'm basically targeting Sepp Straka in the 9s. So this lineup won't be vastly different from what I just showed you. I am coming up to the 9Ks for Sepp. Again, you can go to Hideki. He is a big pivot in the 9s. I'm just not playing him for the withdrawal risk. McNeely could be interesting. Jordan Spieth's very popular, but probably worth it with his course history. I'm just going to Sepp. And then, again, filling out a lot in the 8s. Whether it's Noren, Mitchell, Rio, Denny, Nick Taylor, Shootershawn. I'd fit Johnny Kiefer into this. And then, like, you have Thorbjorn Olesen. If you're really that high on Marco Pinge, I'm not. You can go Marco Pinge. You want to save some money, you can go to Seabez. I'm going to Bud Cauley. Matt Wallace is worth a long look. Max McGreevy. Somebody mentioned Rico Hoey. I'm still a little bit concerned on Hoey, but he could work. These are the lineups that I've been building this week. Very, very, very balanced, focused lineups. Playing very little of Tommy, playing very little of Ludwig. All right, let's make a lineup as a community. We're going to put this into the birdie. So if you want to follow along over on DraftKings, find my username. It's the same as the channel name. Follow along with the community lineup. I'm going to make an executive decision. It is my money. I'm going to make the executive decision that we're going to put Sepp Straka into this. I'm going to open it up to chat. I don't want to take too much time. We're already over by quite a bit. But throw out some names. Who do you want to see in this community lineup for the week? I will say the community did cash last week. So we are 2 for 5, I think. 2 for 5 or 2 for 6 in terms of cashing. I don't remember how many weeks we've been doing this now. But the floor is open. Like I said, I'm just making the executive decision that Sepp Straka comes in. I'm really, really high on Straka this week. But how are we going to fill out our community lineup around him? Is Straka our top? Who do we pair him with if he's not? Moss says Thorbjorn Olesen. So I'll put him there. And again, the floor is open. I'll let people start typing in away. The poll question, we've got quite a few votes. It looks like Yukon is the community's winner for the national champion. It's really hard for me not to say Arizona. I just think they're the best team. That said, if Michigan beats Illinois in the national championship, I will win my bracket challenge. So I've got a little bit of a rooting interest there monetarily for Michigan and for Illinois. But if you're asking me who I truly think wins the national championship, man, it's hard not to say Arizona. They look good. McCarthy hits Satsune. Michigan looks good too. Connecticut looks great. Boy, Illinois play. I don't know. This is that's a very wide open Final Four in my opinion. I don't think the Arizona-Michigan winner is the national title winner. I think UConn could give either team a game. And the way Illinois is defended, particularly against Houston, don't count out Illinois either. Outrights trip, I have Sepp and I have Rio in terms of outrights. So I'm in agreement with you there. Didn't do the Denny outright, although I do have a placement wager on Denny. I don't think Denny can win the tournament, but I do think he's going to play well. So I have him in a placement wager. If Sepp, then it goes Rio, Denny, Torbjorn Jackson Suber's way down there in price. Well, that if we do that, we have enough for whoever we want other than Tommy. So I'll leave it open for just another moment. Moss says Smalley. Smalley would really be unique in the sense that we're leaving a lot of money on the table. I'll leave it, like I said, I'll leave it open for another moment to see if anyone wants to jump in with any other players. Otherwise, we'll enter this and we'll go to the 2026 picks challenge. I have cut into Gabe's lead, so I'm gonna turn the camera off for a moment and go to the 2026 picks challenge. Gabe still has a commanding 8-point lead. However, I have cut into that lead the past couple of weeks, just trying to chip away after a very, very putrid start. My winner this week, I'm going to pick Ryo Itsatsune. He was the first name I clicked outright-wise early this week. I'm just going to ride Ryo Itsatsune. I think that first win is coming very soon. I think it very well could be this week. Gabe's going to go with Thorbjorn Olesen as his winner this week, which I don't hate. I like Thorbjorn Olesen quite a bit this week. Favorite play, I'm going to go with Keith Mitchell at 8,500, 12% ownership. He's a pivot off of a lot of the other chalk in the area. Number 3 in my rankings. Number 1 analytically, or no, number 2 analytically. I like a lot with Keith Mitchell, and he's also putt well here. Gabe's favorite play is Tommy. That's fine. A little bit high in terms of ownership, but he is a pivot off of Ludwig and Bobby Mack and Russell Henley, technically. So I don't hate it. I'm not sure Tommy is the best fit here. His course value isn't great, but he is a pivot, and he's probably the best player in this field. So I don't hate that. I'm going to fade Hideki for all the reasons that I mentioned. And Gabe's going to fade Sudarshan, mostly for the fact that he's never played here before, and this is a very, very predictive course. So that does lend itself to some worry on my end. Mad Scientist play, I'm going to go with Bud Cauley, 7,200, sub 4% projected ownership. Bud Cauley's been very good here with the top 5 last year, and I believe a T24 the previous time he played here. So I'm going to play or make Bud Cauley my Mad Scientist play. Gabe's going to go right back to the well and do Lee Hodges again this week as his Mad Scientist play. It was his Mad Scientist play last week. It didn't turn out well for Gabe. He's going to roll the dice, go with the same pick. FOMO, fear of missing out, guy we're going to put in our lineups even though we normally wouldn't. Again, I'm gonna play Jordan Spieth a couple of times. I don't like it. His course, he's been amazing here, but he's also at Scotty Scheffler-like levels of ownership. There's always an argument to be made to fade the highest owned player on the slate. Look at Colin Morikawa at the Players. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Spieth's going to withdraw. I'm just saying, if you faded Colin at the Players, you were in a really good spot. If Jordan Spieth doesn't play well and you fade him, you're in a really good spot. So there's always an argument to fade the most owned player. So I'm going to FOMO Jordan Spieth, even though he's so high ownership. Gabe's going to FOMO Matt McNeely. And then Masters Qualifier, our wild card category. This is a player who we think is going to finish the highest or the best among players who have already qualified for the Masters. I'm going to go with Sepp Straka. I've got an outright on Sepp Straka. I think he could win. I like this setup for Sepp. And Gabe is going to go with Jordan Spieth. So that's going to be it for a DFS Tactics show this evening. Let me end the poll. Make sure I capture all of chat. I got a lot of people to thank. Moss, Tripp, Robarian, Phil, Timothy, Chronic, Darnell. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody. Thank you all very, very much for jumping in chat, participating this evening, and putting up with some of the stream issues. I know I was dropping some frames at some point throughout the show. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for all the support. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Houston was pretty darn successful for me, at least in terms of DFS. We're going to try and keep that momentum for the Valero Texas Open, build our bank accounts so we can have a lot of fun next week for the Masters. Thanks again for all the support. Very much appreciated. For all the wagers you've made this week for the Valero Texas Open, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Valero Texas Open, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.